I cannot wait to talk about this with you. You watched it yesterday?
Oh yeah. I was excited to hop on and chat as soon as I got out of the theater.
Yeah, let's like dive in right away because I've been trying to talk about it with my husband, but he like watches for pleasure, which is fun and great, but sometimes you're on the drive home and you're like, "Oh my gosh, what about this?" And he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that." I was like, "You need to think more when you're watching." I
Uh,
envy him in some senses because he can just watch and enjoy everything and anything. And I need like some talking points. I need some like a little more depth. So I'm excited to hear what you think right off the bat.
no problem is he's from the 1770s, and like Catherine, you're a 1790s bitch.
Exactly. I just think, well, even actually before we talk about it, I think anyone who's listening, because the hottest thing that people are going wild about on social media, like on TikTok or Facebook, so many people are like complaining about it not being like book accurate. So I think we should just like set the book. We can talk about the book like a little bit. Have you read it?
No, I mean, I did a little brief
Great.
skim of some Wikipedia synopses on, the novel. I wanted to get your literary perspective on things because I know you had a lot to say just based on some, we didn't want to get too much out on the little chat that we got for the pod, but yeah.
I just think overall, like, just like accepting that this is not going to be like a close adaptation. And there's literally like 15 other Wuthering Heights movies that people can watch if they want it to be like strictly, literally like loyal. Like, because I overall enjoyed it. So I'm just going to, for all the naysayers, like, it's not like the book. We'll just get that out of our systems. I'll still talk about the book a little bit, but yeah, this is this is not a close source material version.
No,
it's a vibe. It's a vibe.
And this is a perfect follow up to our conversation on Frankenstein, the one I have with Laura, and I'll get a few some thoughts from you on that because it's a related topic too. We won't belabor this too much, I don't think, but had to throw out the little joke about Charlie XCX too earlier there with Mr. Linton. He's clearly from the 1770s, and his young wife, she's a bit more of a 1790s bitch, I thought. It didn't really work out.
I feel like when I saw the director talk about it, like she had read the book a super long time ago and she really leaned in more to like the mood and her interpretation. And that just comes out in every capacity, from like the costuming to the music to the actors and the actresses. But I like, so you wouldn't even give me a hint when we were chatting earlier. Liked it? Didn't like it? Indifferent?
Oh, did you read my initial comment after leaving the theater on the Facebook
wild
thing?
Ride? You said it was a wild ride.
Yeah. I mean, it. What did I say? I had a fun time. It was a wild ride. So no, I mean, like, because I'd recently watched Frankenstein, another classic adaptation of a literary classic from the 19th century on Netflix, and I didn't get through that in just one solid viewing. That was a bit, it's not too much longer than this one. And by the way, thanks for listening to the Thoughtcast, conversations about animation. This is Philip. Today I'm joined by Jody from Georgia, and we are talking Wuthering Heights from 2026. Director Emerald Fennell, starring Margot Robbie and again Jacob Elordi, who was key player in our previous episode, Frankenstein. So good continuity there in many ways. I don't know. This was more interesting to me, like, because it just went on so many twists and turns. The Frankenstein movie felt a little more run of the mill. I'd seen this before. This Dog and Pony Show from Guillermo del Toro. He's done a lot of similar themed subjects and perhaps a little more interesting movies like the Hellboy films and Crimson Peak. Very, very similar and kind of aesthetic. I still haven't seen.
It almost looks like they reused some of the Crimson Peak sets when I
Yeah.
was watching it, when they're approaching the lab and all of those things. And I know you and Laura didn't go too much into about the book, but oh my gosh, it was literally a 180. Like it was really difficult to watch. And I had to bite my tongue throughout the entire thing because, again, my husband can watch these things and just enjoy, but I'm like questioning character choices because, of course, when you're reading a book and you have the characters like inner dialogue and their motivation kind of laid out for you,
Mhm.
I really did like it. So, like, just to get that out there, like, I like all the Del Toro movies because I like his style. I think it's very cool. I like that gothic, romantic,
Mhm.
modern. Like, I don't really know what you call it. Gothic realism, maybe. I don't know.
Um,
But I really enjoy it. I really like it. I really loved Crimson Peak. I liked Frankenstein, but again, nothing like the book. And honestly, like, yeah, okay, but the sets, like you said, it looked really like Crimson Peak. It was very like predictable, visually, but still enjoyable.
yeah. What was I missed that one. Of course, he did. Guillermo del Toro did Pinocchio, and
Pan's
then it
Labyrinth,
was the one before with was it Bradley Cooper?
Shape of Water.
No, no. I'm totally blanking because I missed. I was wondering if you'd seen it. Um, the Nightmare Alley. I missed that one.
I did, but I don't. It was like a one and done watch for me.
Okay.
Unlike Crimson Peak, I've seen that one a few times, but
I think I would like this one, but I haven't seen it. It might be on HBO or something. Anyways.
that one was also very psychological. I
Mhm.
mean, vulnerable characters, a lot of sensuality, danger vibes.
Yeah, well, sometimes that can be more interesting if it dives more heavily into the character subject rather than relying on you know spectacle. I mean, I love spectacle, but like if it comes at the expense of some of the more deep, nuanced character investigation, then it doesn't really pay off as well a lot of times. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like for me, I probably enjoyed um, the Smashing Machine just as much as Marty Supreme. Maybe not quite. As Marty Supreme is just such a high octane kind of thriller that is much more spectacular, of course, in nature. But so it did bump that up probably a solid notch. Although Smashing Machine did have some decent like fight scenes and stuff, so it was fun in that regard. But more like focused on the internal, character status. Well, I mean, similar subject here with like something becoming going from being like a sort of a troubling fling to a a very problematic dependency. Uh,
Yes, obsessive and like destructive.
yeah,
I mean, you don't get very far into this movie, so like I guess this episode's like a bit rated PG-13 just because there's a lot of intimacy, like visible intimacy throughout. And even anyone if you've just seen the trailers, they really do like pump in those scenes, in my opinion. And I will say that's off the bat my least favorite thing because I feel like those scenes they're like dumbed down for people who like the director's trying to equate passion, but like they don't really know how else to do it besides like physicality. So I wish they would have toned that down overall. I don't know if it's because I'm like from a small Christian town, but I get a little uncomfortable. I'm not a prude, but I was like, it was a little bit over the top in this movie, especially because in the book itself, it's a lot more like of a spiritual, psychological connection. And I feel like when you break it down to sex, it's a little bit oversimplified. But the performers, I mean, the actors in the script, there still was a lot of like depth. I just thought sometimes it's a little bit of like a cheap shot. Because obviously these two, they grow up together. They have a really difficult childhood and they're kind of like brother and sister, but not
yeah,
really. One's like a ward. Is that what you would call Heathcliff? A
yeah,
ward?
yeah. Well, yeah,
Or
very interesting.
like a helper? but they're not
Yeah.
siblings, so it's all fine, it's all good. And in the book, they're not siblings either, but a very close relationship, and a loving relationship that doesn't like physically step in until he returns. But like, what did you think about? I mean, they sold it as this Valentine's movie, a very passionate, hot one. Do you mind those excessive scenes, or do they kind of take you out of it? For me, they take me out of it sometimes.
Mm. I was curious how scandalous the subject matter was regarded in comparison to this being. I I thought this was done for the most part relatively tastefully. Like it wasn't. I mean, most
There wasn't nudity per se.
no.
It was more, I guess, like sounds and
Yeah.
intensity, things like that.
Okay.
And I mean, I do believe it had to be have rated R, right?
Yeah, and I think it definitely. Well, I mean, it was you know it earned its R rating, but also it didn't like go too heavy on like the cursing or weird violence and stuff.
Mm.
There were definitely like horror elements, was kind of fun. It was almost Del Toro esque in the way it incorporated some just macabre, yeah, gothic horror elements kind of sprinkled throughout. I mean, like the walls being patterned after flesh human with like little freckles and everything, and the veins, and it's like, what is this? Edgar Linton secretly like a sicko? Or what?
Yeah, that was very odd. And I mean, they kick the whole thing off. The very opening scene is, I think, a hanging. So you
Oh,
do have
yep,
these
yep.
really kind of
That was very Game of Thrones.
explicit, yeah, yeah. And Catherine, she's insane, by the way. She is nuts. She is volatile. She loves it. She loves a good hanging. She's like, again, PG-13 rating, but she's like getting off on these things, and it's very bizarre. I do like when there's female characters like that, because I mean, they could have easily had her be just like this sweet and gentle thing. And Heathcliff, is it
Okay.
Isabella is the name of the other girl who's more
So
sweet and innocent, I guess, in a way.
I felt like both of those characters were two sides of a coin that were reflective of the director. Basically, I think Emerald Fennell would characterize herself as maybe like, on one hand, Catherine, and the other hand, like an Isabella, both like very passionate about
Yes.
things. But Isabella is kind of the shy, reserved, and Kathy, she's more willing to cut loose, and kind of the ultimately degenerate, like will succumb to her degeneracy ultimately. And does that even carry from the book though? Is Kathy this crazy, almost like crazed individual in that sense?
Honestly, in the book, I personally think she's even more selfish
Oh,
and more like primal. I feel like in the movie, by giving her moments where she's tearing up or catching her breath, they actually softened her a little bit. I mean, they definitely show her ego and pride coming out, but they come back. You know what I mean? Like they'd push her forward and then kind of pull her back again, where you'd see her soul, like her relationship with her dad. She's throws the coins on the ground. She wants her dad to grovel for
my favorite
this
line. Yeah.
money, which it's such an uncomfortable thing to see, because then it shows her having to watch him pick up the coins. He makes her stay and says, "You wanted to see me crawling on the floor. You better stay and watch this." And she does. And in the movie, it really breaks her heart, where I feel like you have less of that in the book. You get a little more from her, which I did enjoy. I feel like Margot Robbie is, not only is she gorgeous, and I mean, she's our Barbie girl, and she was in Wolf of Wall Street, and she's just kind of like this gorgeous girl. I do think she brought a lot of depth to the character. I know I kind of went in hard about the sex scenes in the beginning, that I didn't like how that was oversimplified, but I feel like, no, they did a really good job keeping her relatable, because I think in the book she's a lot more mean and a lot more selfish.
Well, so the novel was published in like 1847. The sole novel of author Emily Bronte. I would almost have to think similarly, Kathy, in that version is sort of the author avatar of Ms. Bronte, who's may have only published one novel, but her sister also published famous novel Jane Eyre. That was Charlotte Bronte. I don't know if she did any others, Charlotte, but I don't know the story of the Bronte sisters. What did was Emily? That's right, Emily Bronte. Was she like similarly troubled? I didn't read if she like had a tragic
Um, so
backstory.
yeah, like you said, she was really actually criticized because this was her only published one, Wuthering Heights, and
Okay.
everyone thought it was really strange and brutal. But as far as like her personality, I'm not really sure. I
She was
have
only
my
30. She was only 30 when she
She
died.
was young, and I have my theory, like growing up with sisters, there's always one that I think can feel like overlooked, and she was the middle child. So I feel like she had her own demons. I mean, I think every woman back in the early 1800s did, as far as like being submissive and not being able to show their emotional range, and being a writer back then, having the opportunity to kind of express things they couldn't express themselves. But no, I'm not totally sure um, if she had like abuse in her life or if she was known for being chaotic. I'm not sure.
Mm.
I just know that they all grew up in like relative isolation in England, like
Mm.
which you can see when these books are written, in the moor or in the misty, empty
Yeah,
spaces of the world. You can kind of see at least that part of their um personal life come into the book. But as far as personality, I'm not sure.
I think that's very endemic to my personality. Speaking of someone who kind of grew up in the moorlands of North Yorkshire, equivalent in northern Minnesota here, where I'm living, and then we shared a graduating class in our hometown, and just crazy enough that you know we started doing podcasts together, and it's a ton of fun, but like it just like and we both have just a very kind of passionate streak in us to try to go and chase after some larger, you know um I guess dream the dreams
Yeah.
that are that seem remote for someone from kind of our region, our upbringing, and I definitely can see like I don't know, some of the things that conspire to make an individual be shaped in such a way. Yeah, the sheltering,
Oh,
the
100%. I talk
isolation.
about
Yeah,
this sometimes with my friends who grew up in larger cities, and we've talked about how sometimes in a small town you feel like you might have missed out on opportunities and this and that. But one of the best things is being in a small kind of isolated location growing up, a small town, especially before the popularity of social media, is we really did cultivate within our own heads a dream of like what our life could be, not because, necessarily we're in a small town, but just like what comes next, because we knew at some point we'd leave this place. And I think that's one of the gifts of being bored in a small town. But yeah, you become a dreamer. And I could see that for these three women, these sisters, they wake up, look out the window, it's gray, it's gloomy. There's 12 people that go to the church every Sunday, and they're like, I want more. And writing books or making a podcast or starting a company. I mean, those are just ways of escape. But yeah, you definitely can see that in her book. And of course, yeah, dying at 30, it makes you sort of wonder what else she might have been able to crank out. Because Wuthering Heights, it's such a popular book. I don't think we were taught it in high school, but there's so many references to it throughout modern culture. But I think there's a lot of confusion to it too, because again, some people refer to it as a romance. Some people refer to it as a like almost a horror type movie because of these obsessive characters.
well,
Yeah, go ahead.
from what I researched on the book and just a brief glance, I kind of wanted to go into this as sort of the Wuthering Heights virgin, but and have you kind of be the tour guide, shall we say? But like, I the framing device. A lot of these classic novels have like an interesting narrative framing device where it is told from the perspective of maybe an ancillary character, journal entries, or just a recounting or something. And like it starts off like in the future, and then the main body of the book is like a flashback type of thing. But it's
Frankenstein is a great example of
yeah,
that. that book is like that. It's told in letters and diary entries, and it begins at the end, and you work your way through.
And it is a quirky sort of situation that this character stumbles into, who's like visiting Wuthering Heights or something, and it like just almost like the Addams family is living there, and it turns out this is like the generation after Kathy and Heathcliff that's living there.
Yeah, I actually had that before we hopped on in my notes, the structure of it. The book is really multi-generational, which can be a little bit more confusing. So I can see why they focused more so just on Catherine and Heathcliff. But you're losing a lot of subplots when it comes to like the class conflict, the legacy of the family, the need for revenge. When you cut out the generations, you know what I mean? The before, during, and after. Because in the book, there's children, there's Kathy and Harriton, and the names actually get really close. And so I might mess up some of it. But I think, in the movie, you see Kathy longing to be part of the Linton family. And it kind of just sounds like a spoiled little girl who wants to be part of like this nicer family across the street. But really in the book, I mean, it does emphasize how families needed that. Do you know what I mean? Like that was the only way of survival, was to go twist your ankle and live 6 weeks at your neighbors and try to get them to fall in love, especially because she, in the book and in the movie, she's getting older. I think she's in her young 20s, or something.
That's
and
always,
back at the spinster.
you get that time, and I was waiting for the inevitable, like, yeah, that they're probably not going to do a middle age between like the child versions of Heathcliff and Kathy, and then the Margot Robbie, Jacob Elordi. So you're going to get sort of the awkward moment where you get the Steve Buscemi, like, hey, fellow kids versions of these aged down actors to look like they're in their maybe late teens, early 20s, or I think they're supposed to be early 20s when you have the time jump. Am I wrong about that?
No, I think you're about right. And another important factor is like Catherine's father doesn't really exist in the book when her story is getting cranked out. So she doesn't even have like a dad to support the family, even though in the movie the dad is doing a horrible job and he's gambling everything away. It really is her only way to survive. And I think she's supposed to be like 24, but I that's just me remembering it.
Still old for like trying to find a suitor. Yeah.
Yes. I think back then and that she doesn't have children for a while. And that's such a huge deal, as you know, to cement these bonds together. I mean, you can hear about it back to like the Henry VIII. Isn't he the one who kept killing his wives because they wouldn't give him kids or something?
Well, but these things, he's such a gentleman, though. Edgar Linton. Yeah.
Yeah. Edgar, this is another thing. This isn't a flaw in the movie. This is just more my interpretation. You've seen The Notebook, right?
Yeah.
I really don't like when the nice guy, the polite, gentle, refined guy marries the girl and then she wants to get back with her high school boyfriend. I know it's romantic, but in The Notebook too, I feel so bad because she wants to get back with Noah. But
I don't even totally remember, but that's got to be a Marsden joint, right? James Marsden, he often plays that character in.
Yes, and he's cautious and he's protective and he has that social status as well. It's a similar thing. But the movie kind of tries to make these characters seem sort of boring and bland and bleh. But in reality, I mean, they're the good guys. I just feel for them a little bit, and I'm sure you do too, especially because you're like a good guy. You're probably more relatable to Edgar Linton.
It's totally my character. Yeah.
Yes. And they just want to avoid the conflict. And then Heathcliff comes along with his shaggy hair and his earrings and his tallness. And it just, I don't know. But in both the book and the movie, Edgar is just softer, a little bit more naive. Which makes Heathcliff feel even more like dangerous. And yeah.
Well, and I came up with a literary analog of a book that we were taught in school. I don't know how common it is for Wuthering Heights to be on curriculum, but I'm sure it maybe is in some courses. Some teachers maybe do teach it, but have you ever heard of kids being, doing a unit on Wuthering Heights in school or college?
My mom, my mom is an English teacher and she said she never taught it throughout her decades of doing high school, but I'm guessing it's an option for some people.
Hmm.
Again, I feel like it's pretty confusing. What did we, I mean, we did like Great Gatsby, and some of those
Yeah,
other novels, but no,
if you,
but I would assume some people do just because it touches on these different themes. Um,
the name's confusing. Wuthering, like I'm sure the first time I saw it printed as a kid, like in one of the school libraries, I read it as Wuthering Heights or heard it as, but then, oh, there's this U there. And I, that's strange. Why is it that, not Wuthering Heights? That sounds,
oh,
uh,
you thought it was like withering, like an
or
old person
withering.
withering away?
Yeah. What's Wuthering? WU. Yeah. That's
What
so strange.
is withering? Is it just the name?
Yeah, some English thing, I guess. But it's almost like a Mandela effect moment for me because I thought I remember first reading it as weathering, and then for the EA turned to a U or something. And I don't know. I recently saw a meme on Facebook, random funny tangent, but it was just funny how it was framed. It was like the X Files, like I know what I saw, and it was a poster of all the icons of things the way people remember them, quote unquote, the Berenstain Bears, random other things, and then the monocle,
On the
Pikachu's
peanuts.
tail,
Yep.
yeah, the monocle and Monopoly Man. There was one though that struck me, and it was the Kit Kat logo, and I was like, that's so it apparently doesn't have a hyphen,
Oh,
and the the I know what I saw version of the poster had it hyphen in it, and that looked more natural to me. But I think the problem is with these things, we conflate them with other
mhm.
things, and so like you know, the Monopoly guy doesn't have a monocle, but I think Mr. Peanut does. So it's like we're kind of combining the two because they're similar archetypes, and same with like I don't know. There's a few of them, but like the Kit Kat one, see, I'm holding a bottle of Coca-Cola right now. I think people are just thinking of the little hyphen
And the
that's,
red and the white.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's why I think Kit Kat seems natural with the hyphen in it, even though it presumably never did.
Well, you really can't trust yourself. It's not even like a tangent, but I was a criminology major and people's like eyewitness testimonies are
Mhm.
notoriously like wrong. They'll be like, I saw a guy in a blue hat. No, no hat, wasn't blue. Like people don't, but they'll be 100%, they believe what they believe that. So I can see where this is a common phenomenon, but it is crazy when a whole generation like
Yeah,
fell to it. But speaking of the Moors and the Wuthering Heights,
yeah.
I love this setting for
Oh yeah.
movies. And I loved that within this mist and fog and rain, they have these pops of red and burgundy throughout. Yes, it was a little reminiscent, very reminiscent of Crimson Peak, but I love the flair that the director brought into this and the costuming. Yes, not period accurate, but you have to admit her dresses were jaw dropping. I don't know if you have an opinion on them, but every time she came on screen, I was just like, where did she get that? The cuts and the gems and the jewels, the accessories. It was amazing. And I mean, they really utilized her costuming to highlight that social difference between her and not only her and Heathcliff, but like her and her helper. I cannot remember her helper's name.
Nelly.
Nellie, yes, the Nellie character.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, this movie, yeah, I mean, it was designed to be a blockbuster. Basically, had a $80 million budget, made its money back opening weekend globally.
Oh, really? Wow, that's great. Because I mean, I've been hearing such, like I said, hate. But I mean, if you got to watch it to hate it, so I mean, people are going to the theater.
It makes sense that it's a divisive film because, like, okay, yeah, the film described as a divisive adaptation right here from the AI overview, but it.
Oh, great.
Let's see. Pause.
Pause also because my dog was barking, so I just needed to close the door so that sound wasn't there. Go ahead.
It's all good. Um, and I don't know. I guess this being sort of a more modernized adaptation being the source of division. But at the same time, it it could have been, well, gosh, I don't even want to imagine. Like it was always skirting the edge of like um obscenity, I guess, because you have things that are just kind of like straight up pornographic, and this is like all the scenes of, yeah, they were covered up, and it was just interesting. The characters, uh yeah, some of them devolve into fairly freakish kinks in some.
Yeah, and I don't like that. In the book, there's no explicit sexual scenes at all, like period. There's nothing about it. And you are right. I will say that they did do a good job sort of like avoiding full frontal nudity and things like that. But yeah, making Isabella sort of like bark like a dog, like that
Yeah,
would have never made the cut in the book. That submissive dominant thing. Like,
yeah,
yes, you have that tone and you have that psychological like thing happening, but you don't see it. And maybe sometimes when you make a movie, you just have to make those choices so that people can figure it out quicker than reading 6 chapters explaining their
yeah.
personalities and sort of the dynamics of their relationships.
And
I
early
just,
on in the film, the Joseph sequence and his
oh,
over
right.
in the shed, it
Right.
was like a BDSM shed. And
It's very different. And I don't like go out of my way to watch a lot of movies that have that. And I know that if you like watch Netflix or HBO like series, I mean, Game of Thrones, even I haven't seen that. So maybe I am just a little more like sensitive to it, but it just, yeah, it was sort of
that
like a
was,
lot.
I mean, it was interesting. I liked the moment though of, you know, like he's trying to protect her innocence almost.
Right.
Heathcliff.
And it does become, I will say it worked really well as an emotional tool because later on in the book, she's experienced him protecting her from this scene when she's younger, maybe 16, 17. And then when she's married, she almost like recreates that moment by like covering her eyes,
Yeah.
covering her mouth with Edgar
Mhm.
as a way of remembering Heathcliff. And that did kind of tug at my heartstrings. We all probably have people in our past where we felt something for them or we had a crush on them or whatever. And if something kind of brings that feeling back, because she in a way, I do think she sort of like loves her husband. Like she doesn't think he's this bad, horrible guy.
Mhm.
I don't know, at least in the book, but yeah, that tool did work, the covering of the eyes, but I didn't like what is it? The horse,
No.
mouthpiece.
Oh, the bridal. Yeah.
That
Bridal
was,
letdown.
yeah, that was a little much for me. I was like, all right, I'm going to go refill my popcorn. I'll be right back. But I didn't watch it with my parents. Like I watched it
Okay.
without them. Did you watch it with your family?
Oh no, I
Oh, thank
almost thought
God.
you said you did watch it with your, no, you didn't.
No, no, no,
Okay.
no,
Which,
no.
I mean, I think your mom could have handled it. She knows what's up, but
Yeah, she knows. I mean, she'd be shocked about the difference between the book and the movie, but
yeah, exactly. She'd be more scandalized by that. And yeah, there are a lot of differences between as there was with Frankenstein, and it would take forever to go through all of them, but yeah, I mean, we'll touch on some of the major ones, but I just thought, it was an interesting, like overall, there's some fun iconography at play here, the directorially, production design wise, but also narratively, writing wise, but also, ultimately you get into some of the character details, and it's supposed to be this grandiose love story, but then it's hard to sort of get on board with that. Like you have those iconic moments that are, the bodice ripping classic romance novel esque moment, like and almost evoking the Princess Bride in a way. Like
oh,
Kathy
right.
looks like Princess Buttercup in some of her costuming, and just her styling, and
And the wind whipping through the long hair.
yeah.
Real girls will tell you that would be awful. Can you imagine brushing your hair at the end of the night after you've been whipped and flipped all around? I think they're supposed to live like 5 miles apart. So this isn't just like a little walk down the street. This is a hike from Wuthering Heights over to the Linton family.
Yeah.
As you probably noticed in the book, there's times where they're like riding in a carriage. There's times where they're walking. There's times where they're riding the horse.
Mhm.
Um, It's further than the next door neighbor you'd picture. So her poor hair was probably in real life destroyed.
She grows to kind of enjoy the cold, which we would have to because it always looked so. See, like, and I appreciated that, like the movie didn't go. It was very stylized, but it always was skirting kind of on the edge of unreality. There were a few cartoony kind of set it. What was the word? Just set design moments, like the stacks of bottles. I can relate to that
Oh,
too. That looked like something from a Tim Burton movie or something.
that was a little over the top. Yeah, that really stood out to me too. I was almost thinking the bottles looked so big, in comparison to his little frail body,
Mhm.
and that's intentional.
A few other, just like the interior of the mansion, but that's kind of how these manors look, though, in England. Like these giant houses owned by these noble families, like are just so ornate and elaborate, and I don't know, the crazy weird walls are painted look like they have veins on them. I mean, I suppose
Mhm.
you could have.
I suppose so too. I mean, things came in and out of fashion, but there's a big estate here, the Biltmore Mansion, which I don't know
Yeah.
when it dates to, but my husband was like, "Why do they sleep in separate rooms if they're married?" I said, "Oh, that's just how rich people always did it." Do you know what I mean? There'd be a woman's room and the husband's room, and they'd have their dressing quarters. And I mean, these houses were very over the top. And even in Frankenstein, you see, I can't remember what his brother's name was, but his home was like that as well.
William.
When she's that first year she's with Edgar, it's almost like a music video style scene. She's in a bunch of different outfits. Christmas is coming and they sort of span a chunk of time.
I felt the Christmas vibes too. It was great. Like, even though, it's kind of like, oh, we just had Christmas and I don't want to think about the fact that it's 10 months away still.
Right. They have to do that so that they can show some time passing because like we talked about earlier, like the book has two generations. This one they really condense it. And if you think about it, she gets pregnant with Edgar in the movie and she doesn't even experience a 9-month pregnancy. So all of these things are happening less than 9 months. Do you know what I mean? Heathcliff returns. She has the affair. She tries to end the affair. Heathcliff marries Isabella. He tries to get her back. All of this is happening within like
it,
6 months.
it
It's
seems,
happening
yeah.
fast. But
Well,
they did a good job pacing it, I think. But if you think about the reality of
but she's
her
never,
pregnancy, yeah.
yeah. Well, and we'll get into, I think, the spoilers now.
Oops, sorry.
Well, no, we will, because it is an interesting, a huge deviation really from the book, right? Where she, well, she okay, I mean, here goes. And it was part of why I found this movie especially satisfying was you kind of you get the characters sort of get their comeuppance for their indiscretion. And I like, because they are kind of nasty, unlikable characters. She
Yeah.
ends up dying and succumbing to this. She was pregnant with Edgar's child, but then Heathcliff shows back up and they're just going at it like rabbits. And
Literally.
yeah, the kid die. She never even gets to a point where she's like showing. So all this is happening within a very condensed, and it feels like it shouldn't be possible. But I think that's how life is, though, when you're in
Mm.
the throes of bliss, like they
Of
were.
an affair or something like that.
It
Yeah,
all
I do
happens
think
so.
so.
Yeah.
I've never experienced like an affair or cheating, but you do hear about like how addictive it is and how this one person becomes a center of your universe and you sort of build this whole world around this person. And then you find out they were only having an affair for like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that's real. I mean, in the book, I know, whatever. Yeah, I'm referencing the book. Childbirth is still like fatal to her, but in the book, she does have the birth of her daughter, Kathy. Catherine has a baby, Kathy. And it's important to note that like Heathcliff's obsession continues after her death with this daughter, this spiritual emotional bond. Like it doesn't end. Whereas in the movie, it's a little cleaner. I mean, she loses the baby prior to, I think she gets sepsis, would you say,
Yeah.
in the movie? Her legs looked infected. But I'm not totally sure. And it's very dramatic and it's a little bit romanticized. There's this scene that they do where she has this blood like pouring out of her body and it's very
kind of
Adam
stylized in a way.
Arians, but stylized and kind of like cool at the same time, but tragic.
Mm.
Um, and I think because they were sort of avoiding the air and the generational tension from the novel, it's not emphasized, but in both the book and the movie, like you said, she's this brat kind of. There's part of you that's like, girl, you kind of brought this upon yourself a little bit.
Mhm.
It's heartbreaking and it's sad, but she made a lot of choices, hurtful choices to the people around her, including Nellie and
I mean,
Edgar.
it gave her more pathos that like she ultimately suffered this and she didn't necessarily have to die for it. Like I don't think anyone necessarily deserves that, but it just makes
Sure.
sense that would be kind of the natural like outcome. But also, I don't know. I understand, the people's issues, but then again, if her character was similarly depicted in the book as like kind of a selfish person, and I thought maybe he came off a little, especially like his conduct with Isabella, that was just such a turnoff for me to his character.
But that I think was important because, like I said, in the book, he is a lot nastier. He's a lot more cruel. And I think they had to throw in a little bit of that because he was too likable for the first half of the movie. I mean, this sweet little boy, beaten and abused, loves the rich little girl. They had to show him becoming a bit more nasty, I think.
He has a thing for me, Lordy. I mean, he's a great actor. I mean, but also a little bit broy, can be a little Logan Paul esque.
Yes. Did you see Saltburn?
I've not seen Saltburn yet.
Well,
No.
there you go. Put that on your list, and you will find your instincts might be pretty correct. He really leans into that part of his personality in that movie. He's at a rich kid college, and he's a rich kid.
In his
doing-
more likable persona, I really kind of compared him to, the actor Mark Strong. He's in a ton of stuff, kind of a character actor.
Strong. Sometimes I have to see a face. Yes, yes.
And he has sort of like this interesting, like crooked tooth.
I see it.
It's very, distinctive, and he's got very and he's been in so many great film, like great characters and stuff. Mark Strong, he was in one of the Sherlock Holmes movies or something. But anyways, in this one, kind of Elordi looks kind of like a younger version of him. And then he's got that gold tooth, or he is originally missing a tooth, but then he gets the gold tooth. I thought that was kind of badass.
Oh yeah, you're right. He gets a gold tooth filled in there.
Yeah.
And he has earrings. And I was curious if that is something that men actually wore or if that was just a style choice because, like we talked about the costumes earlier, they're not really period accurate. But I thought the earring was a unique. I always think of pirates back then would have that type of jewelry, but
no,
yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, like pirate. Well, I mean, this is, England around the time of like, pirates were sailing the high seas at this time. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I don't. Is it ever revealed how he made his fortune? Heathcliff.
In the book, it's very like vague. It's very mysterious because he's supposed to sort of come back as this larger than life like aura, but he goes abroad and earns a substantial wealth. And I don't think in the movie they say anything directly either. But it's not like, oh, I worked on a pirate ship and I found gold and came back. It's never as clear as day with that type of thing. But with the, both times the motivation being to come back and have this revenge or like moment of look, I'm rich now. Like we can be dick. I guess I don't know if you'd call it revenge or just like coming back and being
I don't know.
A figure he could be with, but both times it's mysterious.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like someone like him, just had nothing to lose, found some avenue through which he was able to,
Jay Gatsby, he probably went out and sold some illegal booze and came back to get, I mean, these men, they disappear once they lose the lady and they come back as billionaires. Maybe women should turn down more men. We'd have more rich guys walking around.
Yeah, see, Mark Strong, he was in The Kingsman, he was in Sherlock Holmes, Cruella, bunch of stuff. But um, so I brought up how Wuthering Heights sort of had, as far as books that I've read or that we went through in school, maybe the closest comparison I would make is Where the Red Fern Grows, where at the end you have like these two dogs that are such close knit companions
Mm-hmm.
that once one is killed, tragically in an encounter with like a mountain lion or something, the other one just kind of lays down and kind of like just goes on hunger strike, basically, just like you know refuses to go on living, basically, which I feel like is the description of Kathy
Yeah.
in this, where like she can't live without having Heathcliff as part of her life. Like that was just such a regret on her part, and she was so like addicted to him, basically.
Mm-hmm. It was like her motivation for getting up in the morning and making all these decisions, but it wasn't motivation enough. I mean, she didn't want to live in poverty with him. She didn't choose him when she had the opportunity. I mean, both in the book, in the movie, I feel like they push a lot of the blame onto Nellie, but I believe she made the choice both times, you know. And okay, sidebar. This isn't uncommon. You talking about the dogs. We grew up on a farm, and geese mate for life. And we had the mommy goose died. The mommy goose. I don't know. You call it girl goose, but she died, and we threw her body on our burn pit. And the dad goose saw this, and that goose would not leave the burn pile. It starved itself to death. The male. Isn't that crazy that this is something that happens in animals? I mean, you can look it up. They mate for life, and if one dies, either the one will go disappear somewhere, or it'll die too sometimes. Like it's tragic. So I mean, it's not if animals do it, it definitely could happen to humans.
Oh.
And I don't remember how the book ends for Heathcliff. In the movie, he says he's going to kill Edgar, right? Like, or what does he say? How does it end? How does the movie end? I just watched it.
I mean, yeah, he and Edgar get like it's interesting. You almost think like because he almost just wants to spite Catherine because she's pregnant or whatever, and he takes Isabella as his wife.
Right. But once she dies,
Yeah.
is that sort of the end of it all? Like, does the movie fade out to black? I'm just drawing a blank here.
How does the I think it basically does just kind of end.
The music starts to play.
And like he and Edgar don't have a blow up or anything. Like Edgar is understanding, like the fact that her heart belonged to Heathcliff ultimately, and like they have the shared history and everything. I don't know. Yeah, and it is such like an interesting case of like almost, it's not technically incest, but they were like almost like brother and sister growing up. But that's almost like extra, like what's the word, like taboo adjacent. It's spicy. There's a certain spiciness about like, okay, it's almost like your sibling, but it's not. So it's like it's technically okay, but it's also like sort of like the parent the teacher student dynamic where there's just like a little extra.
Yeah. It's like nowadays, it's obviously very rare and like socially unacceptable to have like, I mean, it's incest essentially, like to marry a
Step
family
sibling.
member. But this, I mean, this has a step in between it. But also, I mean, I don't know exactly in the 1800s, but I do feel like maybe even before, maybe I'm thinking like 1500s, where cousins would marry to keep the bloodline pure or something like that. But yeah, it is an odd thing. I even thought with Princess Bride that I watched it for the first time when I was very young. I thought they were brother and sister. Obviously now I realize he was like the farm hand. Um, but even that I thought was kind of odd. But their choices were limited. There's like 12 people in a 40-mile radius. So I don't know. But yeah, there's something a little taboo about it, a little odd, especially when they're little kids, they're sleeping together in the same bed, they're playing games together, they're being raised as a family.
I feel like at the end he just kind of goes on staying married to Isabella, and she's kind of content. She's an odd, like I almost thought she was maybe coded as being autistic or something. She's talking to um her
She has
brother.
odd hobbies too.
Oh
Like
yeah,
she's
the
making these
dolls.
dolls with, yeah, sorry to interrupt, but she's making dolls with like Catherine's hair. And I wasn't sure if the movie was going to like do some type of twist where either Nellie or Isabella had like a lesbian attraction to Catherine. I mean, I think what it ended up being was Nellie had envy and Isabella had admiration. I don't think either of them were supposed to be, intimately wanting to be with her. But yeah, she is an odd duck. And of course, she's a beautiful girl, but they threw a pair of glasses on her to make her look like less beautiful than Catherine. Um but yeah, she's a complex character, and I feel like I wish they could have given us more screen time with her, but they do a really great job, showing her going from innocent to having a wanting this guy and then getting it and then sort of not giving into him, but almost like feeding into that. And yeah, she's unique. But I would say, yeah, maybe like a little like, I'm not a diagnosis person, but autistic because she's also she has her little hobbies. I don't know.
Yeah, and she certainly was probably older than typical for when she finally got, found she ultimately got married to Heathcliff, but
She got
probably
what she wanted in a way. I mean,
yeah, in very strange circumstances, and just so gross too, like the state that the Wuthering Heights manor finds itself in towards the end. Like he doesn't, Heathcliff doesn't even bother to clean it up once he moves in. It's still, yeah, a total
a pigsty,
dump. Yeah.
truly.
It's just,
And I mean, he's really abusive to her, and
yeah.
she suffers it sort of because I think maybe she's so naive that that maybe is to her what love is, but she's had this great role model of Edgar. And is Edgar her biological sibling? I guess I can't remember that either. I don't think so. I think they were also not related.
No, yeah, there's some interesting, um,
But you'd think from watching him, she would know a little bit more what love and like what a man should act like. But maybe I mean, back then women and men were so sheltered about what happens behind closed doors, like they didn't even know anything about anything. So you could see how it'd be easy to fall victim to that, maybe.
uh, there's supposed to be some like mixed race characters here with Hong Chao's Nellie. She's clearly of Chinese or Asian descent in the film, I believe. This isn't some weird kind of like Bridgerton blind casting sort of situation. Right. But I think it is intended to be like she's stated to be the daughter of the bastard child of a lord who probably had a Chinese mistress or something, and now she's working at Wuthering Heights. And then Edgar, I think there's something said about his heritage or a genealogical background too. By
in the movie, they mention he came from like abroad to take over this estate. But what's funny, I mean, maybe not funny, what's caused a lot of dialogue and discourse online is in Wuthering Heights, Heathcliff is supposed to be kind of dark skinned, a gypsy. His ethnicity is never really specified, but I always pictured him as not white when reading the book. He's supposed to be a minority. I mean, they do call attention to that in the book quite a bit. So there are many people who were unhappy with a white man playing him. But like I said, when we started this recording, I mean, there are 15 versions of this movie. So you can watch one where Heathcliff is black. You can watch one where he's white. I think the main distinction was that he's supposed to be an outsider. And they did that by taking a tooth out, I guess, this time, instead of, giving him a different ethnicity. But yeah, I mean, and he is supposed to, he does look a little different. I guess he has that dark hair and he's sort of,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean, I couldn't tell if Edgar was supposed to be some different ethnicity, but the actor, I guess, is Pakistan, mixed English, Scottish, and Pakistani descent. Shahzad Latif. I've never seen him. I don't recall him in anything else that I've seen necessarily. He was in Star Trek Discovery and Atomic, Nautilus, Magpie, a bunch of rogue agent. He's been in stuff, but he was a kind of a fresh face for me. This short.
Yeah. He's very handsome. I liked his eyes. Again, he didn't have like a lot of scenes, but when he finally expresses to Kathy, because in the beginning of their marriage, I don't think he has any clue. He has this good heart. Even when Heathcliff joins them for meals, he seems very genuinely excited to have this man around. And Nellie ultimately passes along the information about the affair. And I feel like Edgar, he just handles it. He doesn't even call Kathy out. He just says, I don't think he needs to visit us as much anymore. Basically, I mean, he implies that he knows and she knows that he knows, but he never even says, like, you're cheating on me, or he doesn't, you know, make it a big
Yeah.
scene. He's very just matter of fact about it. I loved him in the movie. I
No.
thought he was great. I was like, I'll marry you.
So often you can have a character like that, who's got in a position of just such clear, power or authority over his kind of those around him as this member of aristocracy, but then also, he's the man of the house, and could be treating his wife as very highly submissive. But no, I mean, he's gentlemanly and not much contrasting from Kathy's father, who had his like merits, but also was abusive and yeah, a drunkard and a gambler.
He stressed me out. I mean, it kind of, on Uncut Gems, that gambling addiction, where these people have like the opportunity to figure their life out. And I mean, what's implied is this guy had all the money in the world, Kathy's father, and he's just thrown it all away on alcohol and everything at no thought to what that's going to mean for not just his daughter, but like even the people who worked for him. You know what I mean? He was gross. And then they still have a way of making you feel sympathetic to those characters that are just, when he passed away, I felt bad. And then she kicks him. That's a great scene, by the way. That is very Kathy. So she experiences the passing of her father, and she's weeping and she's grieving and she's having this moment, and then she kicks him. I said,
Yeah.
yes, that's a relatable thing, because he essentially killed himself. I mean, he drank himself to death, lived in squalor because
That's
he couldn't
this
get it
movie's.
together.
Sorry,
No, go for it. I had forgotten
you,
about that scene until now, but it's iconic.
well, you apologize for interrupting. I'm constantly interrupting, but I've just got so much to say. But it's just this movie. Its secret weapon is the fact that it's able to make its characters relatable, even if the romance I feel is like kind of gross. As much as this movie purports to be this epic romance, yeah, in some ways it does service that like bodice ripper, almost like, because it is so it does tread on the trashy, maybe it falls more into the airport, like kind of more trashy style of romance novel than something more. Yeah.
Exactly. Like if a book was based off the 2026 film and I was reading the book, I'd be like, this is just smut. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I would think that. But because of the book came first, and this was just like the artistic, what would you call it? What when people take liberties with something?
Interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, this was just an interpretation of it. I feel like it's better, but yeah, you're right. But then there are scenes like when he really wants to kiss her and he doesn't kiss her, and that sort of, that energy, that romantic energy, that's there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't
Did you
recommend
see the
this.
trailers for this though? Did you see the trailers prior to watching it?
No, yeah, it was kind of played up. The
They
kind of
made it
smutty
look like
angle.
we were going to be watching porn. Like that's what those the trailers surely made it look like. You can't get
Yeah.
around that. The advertising of this was very spicy.
No, I couldn't recommend this to my parents, and I did recommend Send Help to my parents. I was like, they
I
might
haven't seen it
actually,
yet. I haven't
yeah.
seen it.
I mean, it's the star of The Notebook for one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and like that didn't, it's that's also R and is like ostensibly a horror film, like a horror comedy, but that didn't go super hard into the R rating either. There's some like um, some conspicuous scenes of like gore and stuff, but involving like animals and just like gross, you know, deserted islands scenarios more so than like, yeah, just excess for the sake of excess. And here the excess was more in sort of the implied, um, you know, sexuality and more so than what happened on camera. But even then, the heavy breathing, all of that, the the sound mix, it's mostly in that, and
And I mean, whatever they did, it worked. I mean, I don't know if you consider making all the money back a success. I always forget financially like what these people are looking for. But I mean, commercially, if you can make back your budget on the first week, like I think they can say they did a good job. I personally don't think anyone, well, I don't know. Do you think there's going to be awards stemming from this, like acting awards or
ooh,
that? I've never been good at guessing what like is going to be
um,
recognized.
maybe cinematography or
Yeah.
production design, costumes.
Costumes, that would be it, I think. But I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing more movies, more novels brought into the like theater world like this, where it's so beautiful to see on a big screen. You know what I mean? They're doing Lord of the Flies, which I'm excited about. Did you ever read that one?
No, no.
You're more of a podcast listener than a book
Uh,
reader, aren't you?
yeah, I'm not. I've read very little fiction since like school, I would say. I would just, I guess my final note is like, yeah, this function, as much as I enjoyed it, it was more as a function of this being a psychological thriller rather than, a really powerful romance. Although, it had moments of fun romance, but it really, yeah, ultimately, I don't know, took you on a journey, shall we say? I'll
I,
just
I
put it
think that's
there.
what you said before we started. You said this is a wild ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it was. I mean, my final thoughts would probably be like, if you haven't seen it yet, which I'm assuming you have, if you've listened, otherwise we've probably ruined the entire thing for you. But if
Oh,
you've listened, I mean, it's a great stormy romance, and it's intense visuals alone is reason enough to appreciate it, I think.
yeah.
Uh, and I thought it was a cool adaptation. And for those who didn't like it and they're listening and they're like, like we said, there's got to be a gazillion of these that have been made. Um, and now my fingers are crossed that they'll modernize Gone with the Wind, which I know a lot of people think that's probably like horrible to say, but I would love to see a Gone with the Wind now, or more of those novels that kind of they've been made into movies, but they could do it again with these $80 million budgets.
Yeah. Did you like another movie we discussed on here that I really enjoyed? Um, was The Substance? Did you see that?
No, I haven't yet. I'm really behind the
Um,
substance. I'm just gonna pull up the trailer. Oh, I've seen the trailer for it. This was one that I definitely want to see it. And you've watched it already?
yeah, definitely a straight up horror film. And
I really like Demi Moore. I really like Margaret. These actresses are amazing. So this, I don't know how this one slipped through the cracks with me.
but also very much a portrait of someone struggling with
Yeah,
a dependency.
a substance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
thus the name.
Yeah. Um, So, I mean, I'm always fascinated by that. You know, we talked about Marty Supreme and Uncut Gems, and it's just like these characters who just get totally swept up in their obsession, and
Yeah.
I just it just makes for such a compelling why it's just so voyeuristic. I don't know if it's just something endemic to me personally, who sort of relates to that type of thing, or
Oh, no. I think there is something in our subconscious. I ask myself sometimes about, shows. There's shows called like the pimple popper or like the 1,000 pound woman or my strange addiction. And I'm
yeah.
like, why are people watching these things? And I think there's like a weird part of us that like we're just so curious, or like maybe there's a part of us that's like, I could see myself being addicted to a substance, like, and you want to see what that looks like, or I could see myself addicted to gambling and like watching. I don't know what it is, but it's not going away. Our curiosity to dive so deep into someone else experiencing it, but we don't necessarily want to experience it ourselves. Yeah, I haven't seen the substance yet, so I wouldn't be able to speak too much on like that one in particular. But there's shows that are similar with addiction or food addiction, things like that, that
Yeah, for sure.
on the surface look really odd, but there's a lot of people watching and tuning in and really into it.
I'm trying to think about it. Some other examples recently, just like, yeah, the Safdie brothers. You know, I don't know if you're able to.
Did you see Pearl? Did you see Pearl with
Oh
she's like a
man,
farmer's daughter and she wants to be famous and she's
this
like becomes a murderer?
okay, the girl from Goth, Mia
Yes,
from
yes, she's in
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Yes.
I kind of want to see her other films now because
Pearl would be one to
yeah.
try. I mean, it's a slower moving plot, but again, it is one of those you're watching someone go crazy and it's sort of like addicting. Oh yeah. Okay, Philip just pulled up one of these I know what I saw things where your brain tricks you. Wait, it was never Jiffy peanut butter? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah. The one on the left is the Mandela effect versions, and the one on the right is the real world version.
Wait, Curious George never had a tail?
Yeah, apparently not.
No, this is where they're brainwashing us because no.
Okay, the fruit of the loom. Okay, the cornucopia. Okay, that's interesting.
Exactly. It's oh
It doesn't have it never had a cornucopia
mhm.
apparently.
Do you think some rich people are out there just trying to confuse us?
Well, there's some of the like Berenstein. I think it was always pronounced Berenstein because who would say Berenstain? Like that's not really. You would either say Berenstein or Berenstein or something like with how those types of like Germanic names are pronounced. But for whatever reason, it's spelled AIN. I don't know.
And Pikachu's tail not having that stripe. I'm happy you're showing this to me now because if you had done a pop quiz on me and said like, is this right or wrong? I think for like half of these, I would have picked the wrong one.
There are a couple. I like
Not all of them.
yeah.
Looney Tunes, I knew. Fruit Loops, I knew.
Yeah. Jiffy, I don't know. Are you confusing that with like Jiffy Lube, maybe?
No, I thought it was Jiffy peanut butter.
Yeah, it's just Jif. Yeah, it's always been just the three letters.
I don't know. I mean, I believe you, but it's odd. Chick-fil-A, I always knew.
Yeah, no, that spells chic fillet. That one on the left, the Mandela one. Yeah, chick, CHICK. Yeah, the fruit.
How did this tie into our? Oh, because you were thinking Wuthering Heights was Withering Heights, or
or
you would have
weathering,
sworn that it had a different name.
like Weathering Heights. I thought.
Weathering.
But it's like images of a girl walking through the cold, kind of. It's
Weathering it.
yeah. The weather is very much a fun piece of the narrative in this film slash novel. Clearly, it's always so that, like I was saying, like it really kind of grounds the film in the fact that it is this sort of grungy, atmospheric, kind of sparse climate. I mean, even like the rock formations are very dramatic, kind of felt exaggerated in a way, but I think, that is a real type place that you can find in
Oh,
the moors of.
yes. When we
And
were in Ireland this last May for 5 weeks, it looks like that so often. These areas that have this rain and these sharp coastlines. Did you ever see Tristan and Isolde with
no.
James Franco? Okay. A similar type of setting for a love story, these gloomy areas. But Weathering or Wuthering, Jiffy or Jiff, Chick-fil-A or
No.
Chick-fil-A, like they all get the job done. we we all know what's going on with the marketing and
Okay.
the titles.
Febreze, I think, yeah, the misremembered one has two E's in it.
Oh, honey, I would
So
never buy that. The toxins.
yeah.
Fragrance is the killer of the century. Do you have fragrance in your house?
No,
I feel like your mom must have been really good about not putting artificial fragrances all over your home.
not chemically. I mean, essential oils though. We probably
Yeah,
do
that's
too
fine.
much of that.
His
Yeah,
mom is ahead of her time when it comes to like toxins.
right. No, yeah, she was very conscientious of anything that was overly chemically or sciencey.
Modified.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't think too much Febreze probably in your house. But yeah, the Curious George one out the tail is the one that's like shocking me the most. I almost want to go. We have a bunch of books from the thrift store from like this 80s and 90s, and I almost want to see if I have an old book. I wonder if I could prove that he did have a tail. People probably have tried to prove this.
I think
Down a rabbit hole.
in almost every case, it's like you're thinking of something else that's similar that does have the misremember quality to it, but um, yeah, you're really not. Yeah, it really never did. Have the. I mean, to suggest otherwise would be to say that there is some sort of, I don't know, slip in the space time continuum that would occasionally occur um, throughout.
Well,
But yeah, maybe.
there's a lot of things we don't know. So I mean, I'm not I feel like we've talked about this. I'm not like a conspiracy theorist, but there are times when you got to wonder a little bit what's going on
And so it's
under
fun
our
to think,
noses. Yeah, it's
fun
fun. It's fun to believe.
other universes, other timeline. I mean, it's kind of like what we do when we tell stories. We're creating a whole new world out of our imagination. Um, and a lot of times, yeah, we're adapting things that previously existed and putting a new spin on them. I know I've always liked the idea of like keeping things within continuity and continuing a story where you left off, or setting a story prior to something that came before, but and having it all exist within the same cohesive world and stuff. It's always fun to see that sort of connection, being able to like join the dots, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should read Wuthering Heights then. You get three generations all in that misty mountain world, but there's no magic of it. It's just the real world. There's nothing. It's more fun when it's a world that has elements that are unique to itself, like Tron or Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or Narnia
Uh,
versus
the
versus
magic
England. Yeah, the magic. The
the
magic.
magic here
The
is
magic.
is in the passion and the romance of
No, don't read the book then. No, if you want the romance, But I'm really happy we got a chance to talk about it because I was waiting. I had so many thoughts. I hope I was able to. I'm like having a baby in 2 weeks, so like I don't even know if my brain is like working. Um, but yeah, I'm so happy we got to spill about it because it was a lot. It was a lot, and it was long. It was 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah, so two and some change. I mean, with the credits, you can knock a little bit off of the runtime. So it was like 2:16, I think, from what I saw on the. Oh, yep, 2 hours 16 minutes here showing here, and then take. I stayed throughout the whole credits. I was interested to hear the soundtrack, like the Charlie XCX
Oh, we didn't
music.
even talk about the soundtrack much. Oh, right. It was
No,
so unique.
yeah.
Oh man, we really skipped. There's so many elements. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
what did you think of how they utilized the music in this and the different genres they pulled in.
It's good. Yeah, you got some good power chords, kind of reminiscent of pop music. It makes sense that uh, these are derived from compositions by pop star Charlie XCX. I'm not sure like who was responsible for like the orchestral. Did she also do kind of the orchestral compositions as well? Music by Anthony Willis, the score, and then Charlie XCX, the songs. I'm sure there was a collaboration there to make, to kind of correlate the two. And yeah, like the scene, it goes from basically the height of the romance is like when they're watching the staff have their little tryst in the shed, and the horse and like she's up in the loft above, and Heathcliff is covering her eyes and her ears as shield her from the
Hands are like bigger than her face.
yeah, but just that whole situation just causes her to go crazy, and that's when she realizes she's just gone, totally like head over heels.
Infatuated, yes.
And then she has to go off and get that out. And he.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh, that was kind of shocking as well. And you know what? That I will give credit to, because it's not often in shows that I watch that you see a woman doing that to fulfill herself versus the amount of times in movies you see like a man doing that to fulfill himself. So they had a female director. That makes sense.
But
I forgot about that. But in the moment, I was like, oh my gosh, is this actually happening on the screen? And he catches her. It was so embarrassing.
He picks her up by the laces on her corset, bodice ripping, literally almost. But yeah, sadly, the characters don't retain their purity, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's such as life, and oftentimes, say la vie. And then just the tragic circumstances from which Catherine, what was the Earnshaws, come from the downfall of Mr. Earnshaw, and just that great, like him calling out her passive aggressiveness, pull the coins on the floor. Like I totally was like, mm-hmm. How often do we do that? We'll slight someone, in like, we think we're doing it in a, a less ostentatious way, but really it's like, if you're going to dump the coins on the floor, might as well stick around to watch me grovel for them, because that was your intention.
Right. There's little teeny mannerisms down here in the South that it's not obviously to the same extent, but when, someone's kind of looking down on you, they'll be like, oh, well, bless your heart, but it's sort of them. Right. Yeah. That similar energy of like, oh, what you're saying and what you're giving. Yes. I think we see lots of little incidents like that. And it was a very strong, scene. Her and her father's relationship. Yeah, we could probably do a deep dive on that alone if we had more hours in the day. But
the ways that we obfuscate our lives, our true intentions, our motivation, and out of convenience, oftentimes out of like seeming necessity, with Kathy's compromise of not pursuing Heathcliff because she feels they would be condemned to poverty, and so she needs to pursue this rich landowner instead. But her life is she has everything she could ever want, but still feels bereft as a result of that choice, and ultimately she succumbs to it in the end. Yeah.
It would be fun, sort of. Okay, sorry. This is my last passing thought about it. There is a moment where he suggests, or she suggests, killing Edgar. Oh. And you know how there's books where you can choose your own adventure?
Yeah.
It'd be fun to have an alternative ending to see how they end up as a couple if they could actually be together. Let's say he killed him, okay? And they end up together with the money. They'd still find a way to just destroy each other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think. But that I don't remember that in the book, him ever mentioning that he could kill this guy. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah, something just seems cursed about
Toxic. I think the word is like a toxic relationship, right? A toxic, not commitment, a toxic, here goes my brain. I like must
Oh,
have hit the 1 hour mark. A toxic attachment.
yeah. I think maybe that is just sort of conveyed right from the start with like she's at the hanging and she's cheering, and it's just so um so stark, like this life that she lives in, and she's really just like, you know, in over her head in so many ways. Traumatized without even know, her mother's, died, and she names Heathcliff after her deceased brother, I guess. These were just moments in her past that, and then her father, yeah, drunk, and just like an addict, and then also, but also like possessing a spark at the same time. He
Right.
generously takes Heathcliff in,
Exactly. And shows him just enough love to sort of build that relationship. And that is such a real thing. Oh my gosh. There's so many like things going on in this movie, but you hear about that with women in abusive relationships or children that come from abusive homes, where when it's good, it's like really good. Like, oh, this person does love me. They're just struggling. And then they like beat the crap out of you. And the next day they're hugging you and kissing you. My son, it couldn't be that bad. Like, oh, I love you. And just that back and forth of, oh man, yeah, there's so many examples of that throughout this thing, and that being Catherine's model behavior for what a loving relationship looks like. No wonder she's slapping Heathcliff and then like kissing him. It's very messy.
Yeah. Oftentimes the key to this is having stable relationships, and finding your community, your support circle. Same with like the substance. She just isolates herself in that ultimately, and I feel like Kathy, so in a situation, she's kind of in a world unto her own at the end here. All right. Well, I don't know. Anything further, or we'll wrap this up. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think this is one we could have probably talked on and on about. There's so many nuanced moments and scenes and things like that. But overall, is it one you would watch again? I feel like that's the question I always ask at the end. I think I'd watch it maybe one more time.
Yeah.
One and done, kind of, maybe.
No, I'd love to watch this with with like a girlfriend or something. Just
Oh gosh, no. Well, it depends on what she's like, because she might be covering her eyes half the time. But it does depend. It does depend.
just
Save it for next Valentine's Day. Put it away in your pocket.
just as like a psychological thriller. These are the types. I mean, movies like uh, Uncut Gems. Marty. These interesting character analyses. I feel like that would be, that's something I would enjoy diving into with somebody else, and just
It's definitely like if you're doing dinner and a movie, you want to do dinner after so you have time to talk about it.
yeah.
Because I agree, it's something that you want to kind of pick people's brain about or see what they noticed versus what you noticed, and um, kind of give it that extra attention, which I think is, like we both said, call for a great movie. Because if you leave the movie and you're like, oh, that was good, and you never think on it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having me. And hopefully I'll be able to hop on another episode or more before I give birth. And hopefully I don't get sepsis or bleed out. Like I was like, oh man, this is terrifying watching this.
Well, and Jody, I guess, yeah, as we sign off, one thing I will maybe recommend, if you get time, you might have a little time to do some streaming as you're, awaiting these.
As I'm getting larger and larger and larger.
Speaking of like a woman in isolation, there's this great show on Apple called Pluribus. Have you heard of that?
Oh, it's showed up on my like not must watch, but it's showed up on my yes, my like little list of, what do you
Yeah,
call it?
yeah, recommendations or something.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, do you have Apple TV?
Yes, I have everything.
And like, because there's a lot of good stuff on there, Severance and stuff. But this one is about an author, a fiction author. So it's fascinating, and like almost everyone in the world goes through this dramatic change as a result of a virus. But
Oh,
she
say no
shares the
more.
scene.
Say no more. I'm curious.
That's right from the start. It's
Yeah, you've got
don't,
me.
don't watch any trailers. But yeah, it's really fascinating how she has to adjust to the world around her. As a result of this weird thing, because like she just feels like the only sane person.
Yeah, that is a great. My gosh. Okay, my brain is gone. We got to be done. That's a great.
Sorry.
I'm trying to say theme, but that's a great
premise.
subject. What? What's the word?
Premise.
Great. Okay, premise. Okay, on that note, Philip, tell them where they can find you.
Oh yeah. At Thoughtcast on socials and at Philip Elke and thoughtcast.com. Yeah, just follow us in whatever streaming service you use or whatever. But appreciate the listen. I've got my little bottle. This water. So Jaden Smith is in my good books because apparently he is responsible for this brand of sparkling water you can find at Target.
I've never seen a bottle like that.
Called Just Bubbles, and it's really delicious. It's a little, I can't buy it too much, just single bottles because it's like $2.50 a pop. But it's just there's no sweetener or anything. I love my sparkling water.
Wait, really? It's not sweetened. It's just bubbles.
Just water that's like LaCroix.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I will keep my eyes open, although sometimes grocery stores in the South don't have what they have in the North. But I'll keep my eyes open for it.
I could probably do cool sound effects with my voice here, speaking into the hello. Oh, I am your father.
You should be able to do like a train whistle, right? Or does it need to be a smaller opening?
I could do that.
Close.
Yeah, I don't know. Not quite.
Sometimes I think a smaller top is better for those ones. But yeah, I will check out that show. I will find that bubbly water. And if you guys want to find me, just find me back here, hopefully soon. I liked this one was not animated at all, but I'm liking sometimes doing these ones to mix it up. But we should do some animation again soon, get back to our roots a little bit. But
visually compelling. Yeah, the Thoughtcast.
Visually compelling. Yes, perfect.
The Thoughtcast conversation about animation, of course, is where you can find our handle online, just all the searches and so forth. But yeah, we'll wrap this up. Thank you so much, Jody. And we'll sign off by just wishing you all a magical day. Have a wonderful week. Warm hugs.
Warm hugs and no bleeding out. That really did freak me out.